viewers of Reflect Afrique Television, welcome on the evening edition of the English newscast. Let's begin with the headlines. Barely 2 days into the Cameroon Bar Council's protest, 10 lawyers have disassociated themselves from the Bar Council's protest, which began on November 30th, 2020 and is to last for 5 days. Nigerian Army commander has been convicted after a viral video of him stating that the military lacks the necessary equipment to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Boko Haram has also been demoted from his position. General's Uganda's presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi has stopped campaigns after his fans were severely injured during campaigns. These headlines and more will be yours in a minute right ahead. Good evening once more and welcome back. About 10 lawyers of the Cameroon Bar Association yesterday, December 1st, 2020, disassociated themselves from the ongoing protest initiated by the Bar Council. Barely 2 days into the protest, Barrister Luis Gabriel Eyango and Mbita Blaise led a team of up to 10 barristers who stood against the decision of the Bar Council while stating that the Bar Council is being discriminatory. According to the group of 10, they question why lawyers handling criminal cases and post-electoral litigations are restricted from courtrooms which provide their daily meals. The group urged the Bar Council to look into their strike order as the strike enters day 3 today, December 2nd, 2020. It is noted that the decision of the Bar Council was followed by the Bonanjo incident of November 10th, 2020. The current Cameroonian ambassador to Germany, Victor Ndoki, was appointed yesterday, December 1st, 2020, by a decree of the President of the Republic, President Paul Biya, as the new representative of the Republic of Cameroon to the United Nations International Center in Vienna, Australia. The former retired police officer who exercised this new function cumulatively with his cap as ambassador of Cameroon to Germany, where he was appointed on November 2nd, 2020. Sandrine Dumbe on this report.
Victor Ndoki, who was appointed yesterday, December 1st, as the new representative of the Republic of Cameroon to the United Nations International Center in Vienna, will have, in addition to the challenges of his ambassadorial hat, which was to give new impetus to diplomatic relations between Cameroon and Germany, which experienced slight friction following the invasion and destruction of the diplomatic representation of Cameroon in Berlin. Victor Ndoki, with the support of the United Nations International Center in Vienna, will promote the protection of human rights, the provision of humanitarian aid, sustainable development, and the guarantee to international law. The embassy in Berlin, which covers countries such as Austria, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Croatia, Kosovo, Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, Czech Republic, will allow the representative of the Republic of Cameroon to the International Center of the United Nations in Vienna, Victor Ndoki, who is cumulatively ambassador of Cameroon to Germany, to extend his actions beyond the Federal Republic of Germany. It is easy to understand why the head of state Paul Biya appointed him to this post, as it is true that Victor Ndoki is not the only Cameroonian capable of occupying this post of representative of the Republic of Cameroon to the United Nations International Center in Vienna. It must nevertheless be recognized that this year of service as Secretary General of the General Delegation for National Security from 2006 to 2015 gave him added value. In addition to this, the head of state Paul Biya saw in Victor Ndoki a competent Cameroonian official who espouses his vision, his principles, and who could not go against the ideas and conventions of Cameroon, which he has the heavy responsibility of representing. With this appointment, the head of state Paul Biya is convinced that the interests and freedoms of Cameroonians in the diaspora will be respected. It should be noted that Vienna International Center in Austria was opened in 1979 and was made available payable to the United Nations organization against a symbolic annual rent of 1 Australian shilling for a period of 99 years. Vienna is, along the New York, Geneva and Nairobi, one of the 4 headquarters cities in the United Nations. United Nations organizations in Vienna include the United Nations Office at Vienna, which provides administrative support to United Nations programs. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, the Preparatory Commission for the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, the Office for the Outer Space Affairs, the International Commission for the Protection of the Danube, the International Narcotic Control Board, the International Organization for Migration, and many more. In view of this list, which is far from being exhaustive, we understand that Victor Ndoki will have no time to sleep on his pillows. It also remains for us to wish him good luck in this new diplomatic position.
The gunmen involved in the massacre of 7 kids in a school in the Fiango neighborhood in Kumba, southwest region of the country on October 24, 2020, is currently in police custody. According to official reports, the suspected gunman, who goes by the name Nebangwa, popularly called Commander Zabra, was arrested this Tuesday, December 1st, 2020, at a drinking spot in the Fiango neighborhood, located around the divisional officer's office, after he attempted to rob a customer of the bar. As both men struggled, a police officer is said to have intervened to separate them when Nebangwa reportedly seized his gun. After this action, a military officer who had been watching the scene from the DO's office intervened and though he tried to escape scene, he was overpowered. Both security men arrested him. After questioning at the DO's office, Nebangwa is reportedly to have confessed to being a separatist fighter, adding that he belongs to a gang of Ambazonia fighters based behind the government bilingual high school, Kosala Kumba, southwest region. He was then taken to the senior divisional office for Meme Shambalen Tuungdong, who it was said he is one of the gunmen to have participated in the massacre of the 7 kids at the Mother Francisca International Bilingual Academy last October 24, 2020. Neba is officially the second suspected killer to have been neutralized by the security forces. Shambalen Tuungdong has indicated that he would help them track the rest of the group members before everything is being completed. Since December 2nd, 1949, the U.S. agency in the Ministry of Culture in partnership with UNESCO every December 2nd is being commemorated as the anniversary of the adoption by the United Nations General Assembly of the Convention for the Suppression and Abolition of Human Trafficking and the Exploitation and Prostitution of Others. Sandrine Dumbe once more in this report.
The celebration of this day, while being inspired by the spirit of the abolition of the black traffics, updates the permanent fight against all other forms of modern slavery, which deprive to every human being their freedoms and their most basic rights to dignity, to free work, to life. Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations, in his message of December 2, 2001, recalling the abolition of slavery, added this: "Many people no doubt think that this treaty no longer needs to be in place in the 21st century. However, we must admit that slavery and servitude are still too frequent, hidden under the names of compulsory labor, forced labor, exploitation of child labor and human trafficking, marginalization, exclusion of social groups. Today, forced labor and sexual exploitation of children, prostitution of women, the discriminatory treatment of migrant workers, the daily attacks on human rights, the deterioration of the terms of trade, the burden of unfair and unjust debt of all forms of deprivation of freedoms synonymous with modern-type slavery." The UN and its affiliated organizations, in collaboration with the international community, are strengthening their international instruments for the eradication of all these modern forms of slavery. These include the adoption of new conventions: the International Convention of the Protection of the Rights of All Migrant Workers and Members of Their Families, the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, the Declaration of the World Conference Against Racism, etc. Deepening the reflection on all these these questions, raising awareness of this current struggle against modern-type slavery. These are the challenges of the collaboration of this International Day for the Abolition of Slavery on December 2. Its objectives are to popularize and raise awareness of serious violations of individual freedoms, in particular child and women trafficking. Develop and share the reflection of the necessary mobilization of all sectors of society to fight this scourge. Bring states and international institutions to enforce international treaties and national laws.
Uganda's presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine, has suspended his campaigns following the injuries of his members of his campaign teams and the damage of his car. The opposition candidate says bullets were fired at his car, puncturing the tires and rendering it immobile. Earlier in the east of Kampala, armed forces had also fired tear gas to disperse his supporters, and 4 members of his campaign team are currently injured. The musician is said to have visited the Electoral Commission earlier today to voice out his discontent. Bobi Wine was arrested 2 weeks ago at a campaign rally after being accused of disrespecting anti-COVID measures by gathering a campaign crowd that exceeded the 2,000 persons limit. 54 people died while protesting for his release. President Yoweri Museveni defended the actions of the military while addressing the nation on Sunday and stated that no politician was untouchable. A military court in Nigeria has convicted a former commander of the Nigerian military in the fight against Boko Haram after he appeared in a video on social media complaining of lack of military equipment to fight the jihadists in the northeast of the country. More details coming up next in this report. The trial and conviction of General Olusegun Adeniyi followed an angry outburst he made in a video that went viral on social media, and he is found guilty of violating military rules which prohibit sharing of any information about military operations on social media. While recording the video in the field earlier this year, after Boko Haram militants killed over a dozen of soldiers in an ambush, he stated that Boko Haram fighters were better equipped than the Nigerian army. Immediately the videos went viral, the military court ordered that General Olusegun Adeniyi will be demoted. Nigerian troops have long complained of inadequate weapons as they fight a long-running insurgency by Boko Haram and its splinter faction. Recently, the jihadist threat carried out a devastating attack on farmers near Maiduguri, where over 43 farmers were killed. After the incident, the Nigerian members of parliament summoned President Muhammadu Buhari as an urgent national importance. The Nigerian army has come under heavy criticisms following the massacre, even though the army blamed the lack of equipment to fight the Boko Haram insurgency. Blames have also been laid on the local residents who act as informants for the militants. In 2020, the military budget stood at about $1.5 billion, which was to be used for the purchase of defense equipment, ammunition, seaboats, and operation vehicles. A security summit was convened earlier this year by the Nigerian police of Maiduguri in demanding the federal government to increase the amount of funds allocated for the procurement of military hardware and allowances to security forces fighting the Boko Haram in the region. The trial on The funeral of late former President Jerry John Rawlings has been slated for Wednesday, December 23, 2020, according to an announcement by the family. Mr. James Victor Ngebo, the head of funeral planning committee, said in a statement on Monday that the ceremony will be held at the Black Star Square in Accra, Ghana. Former President Rawlings died on Thursday, November 12, 2020, after a brief illness at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra. Rawlings was born on June 22, 1947, and he was a former military leader and a politician who ruled Ghana from 1981 to 2001. Rawlings was the longest-serving leader of Ghana. He led the military junta until 1992 and later served 2 terms as the democratically elected president of Ghana. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo had in November announced a state burial for the late former president, John Rawlings. Dear viewers, it is on this note that we come to the end of this edition of the English Newscast. Up next is the 8 p.m. French edition with Liliane Fouen. Stay tuned and see you tomorrow at exactly 7 p.m.